So now that I got the Cobra cleaned up enough to where I don't feel unsafe being inside of it, we're gonna start working on it, get it up in the air, figure out what parts are on it, compression test it, and see if we can get it running. All right, so the car has got an off-road H-pipe on it, and shockingly it has Flowmaster 40s. Those are going in the garbage. So I noticed that this diff cover definitely looks like it's been taken off before, because that's not factory color or anything. So I put a little mark on the bottom of the wheel, I put a mark on the bottom of the drive shaft right here, and I spun the wheel and saw how many times the drive shaft spins per one rotation of the wheel. And it is 4.1. So this has 410 gearing in it, which is extremely exciting because that is literally exactly what I would have wanted to do for drifting. Be very easy to break the tires off even at the factory horsepower level. And then I just started looking around and seeing all the different U-joints and stuff, just looking for things that were worn out. They're all tight. Got up to the transmission and I started looking at it and I was like, that doesn't look like a T45. And the bell housing's cut right here. So I found a part number off of it, and I actually found out that this is a TKO 500 trans, which is rated for 500 foot-pounds of torque. It cost over $3,000 to do the full swap to put one of these in the car. I'm assuming the previous owner probably blew the factory one and didn't want to blow one again, so he went ahead and upgraded. That is extremely exciting because of my future plans with this car that lie somewhere over in that side of the shop. So this thing's hopefully going to be able to hold up to the abuse of drifting. Literally the only thing I was concerned about at all with using this as a drift car was how weak those factory transmissions are, but the fact that that's in there is absolutely amazing. In the front we have EBOK springs in the front, and in the rear we've got H&R, and it looks like factory struts. So I'm definitely gonna put some quality struts on it. I'm not gonna change the springs out yet. I'll put coilovers on it one day. But like I said, I really wanna keep the car as stock as possible, go out and learn, and then be able to kind of better understand what exactly it is that I need to upgrade and what like spring rates and all that type of stuff, and be able to really learn how it affects the car by driving it both before and after, so that I can better understand it and be able to fine tune it a lot more. So next thing I'm gonna do, and besides that, I haven't really seen too many other aftermarket things out here. Tie rods are pretty tight, ball joints all look good and things of that nature. So that's pretty exciting news. Not too much damage under the frame, except for it looked like someone incorrectly jacked it up one time and split that. So we'll weld on some nice plates to put the lift under. So the first step of getting this thing running again is I'm gonna drain all the oil out of it. We're gonna inspect it to see if there's anything that's not supposed to be in there, and we'll put fresh oil in it, and then we're gonna compression test it. So let's drain the oil. That don't look like oil. So there's a very, very thin liquid. When I checked the oil, I noticed that the oil level was a lot higher than it was supposed to be. And honestly, it doesn't smell like gas. It seems like water. So that could either be there's a open hole in the engine somewhere, or maybe I went too ham with a pressure washer. That's the most likely. But that's not good. Well, at least there was oil in it. And definitely a pretty healthy amount. So this is what the bottom of the oil pan looks like, and this was very clean before this. So you can see a little bit of green. I mean, it's very possible that that's coolant. It's possible it could be water that's mixed in and it's giving it that weird color. If someone's more experienced about this and knows exactly what this means, let me know. There's these weird white chunks in here. They almost seem like a paste of sorts just from shit getting mixed around. So I'm not too sure on this. I think it's just water. It doesn't really smell like anything other than engine oil. So let me know if you guys have any experience with something like this. But now I'm just gonna bring the car back down. I'm gonna fill it with oil as the drain plugs out and just try to flush it through until I just have clean oil coming out. Then we'll take out the oil filter, and the oil filter is really what's gonna have some metal shavings in it, if anything. So let's figure it out. Well, they got a Fram oil filter on here, which is the equivalent of trash, and I think they use Loctite. Oh shit. Oh. Oh, how long are these damn threads? So here's the oil that's in here. You're not going to be able to see this on camera as good as I can, but the oil coming out actually Looks really good. It actually looks better than my green 2 valve. Every time I change the oil, there'd just be normal debris. You can see some flakes, no severe amounts of metal or anything too foreign in there, so looks good. All right, so we got it filled up with oil. I'm about to take all of the spark plugs out as well as the intake, and then we're gonna hook up some power to it, and hopefully we can do a compression test. I have no idea how the car is gonna react when we put electricity to it. I've already pulled the 20 amp fuel pump fuse, so let's do it. All right, so turning it over went well. I heard a ticking noise and it was just one of the wires grounding out, which really isn't a problem, but I was just making sure it wasn't something in the motor making that loud of a noise, just trying to turn it over. So that's all good. I'm gonna go ahead and thread the tool on, and we're gonna start with cylinder number 1. I'm gonna try to angle this in a way so that I can see it while I'm turning it over, so I can tell when it peaks. All right, we have got 90. That's not good. Guess let's add some oil and see if that changes anything. All right, so with oil, we got, we'll say 98. So the reason I added oil is because if the piston rings or the piston to wall clearance is a little bit larger than what it's supposed to be or worn out, that oil will help seal it up and it'll make a better compression number like it did. However, it's definitely very low on compression. We should be getting things in like the 150 range or up from there, honestly. And if it was a problem with the heads, like one of the valves was stuck or it wasn't opening up or they weren't closing how they were supposed to be, then that number wouldn't have changed with oil because that doesn't affect that. So problem with bottom end. Let's try number 2. All right, so on number 2, we have about 165, which is exactly what we're looking for. All right, and we are at perfectly a 105. So because that's a low value, I'm gonna add some oil to it and we'll see if it jumps up. All right, that is 125. Number 4 is at 135 PSI. And because once again, that's still, that's good enough to where I'm not gonna add oil to it. All right, cylinder number 5 is 164 PSI, which is great. Cylinder number 6 is 144 PSI. 125, that's great. 75 PSI. So let's add some oil to that and let's see what she do. All right, so now that we've added some oil, we went from 75 to 80. So what I just saw on the compression test leads me to believe that it is very possible the bottom end is worn out and the heads might be fine. And the reason I say that is because every single piston that was low on compression, I added oil to it and it jumped up. It's still possible there could be something wrong with the heads. There could be a bad lifter, there could be a valve that's not seating all of the way, anything along those lines. 4 valve heads have a lot going on inside of them and they're very expensive to replace all of the parts on. So that's good news to me that the heads are good, because I don't really give a shit about the bottom end. And let me show you why I don't give a shit about the bottom end. So I'm not gonna take it out of the protective wrap because it's protecting it from the shop and rusting, but this is a 05 Windsor aluminum plant block. It has Aries pistons in it, Eagle 5.0 stroker kit with forged pistons and rods. It was all balanced and assembled at Honeycut Machining, which is right up the road from me with awesome people. And the guy I purchased this engine from was planning on putting it in a drag car and making well over 1,000 horsepower. So this is a very serious engine. This thing is 100% ready to go, besides like oil pump, the timing system, and putting some heads on it and whatnot. So this thing is, I also got ARP head studs for it as well. So my plan is, depending on how it sounds, if there's a very bad tick when I start this thing up, I'll probably pull the motor that's in here out of it and most likely just fix whatever the problem is depending on how bad it is, and then run it till it blows up, and then in the future do like standalone turbo and all that stuff with the other motor. However, if this thing's just low on compression and we can put some thicker oil in it and the sound kind of goes away, I'm gonna just run it till it blows the fuck up. I don't really care. So next step, we're gonna put some plugs in it and we're gonna see if we can get it to fire up.